Hi, I'm Midge Shoemaker, and this is my first attempt at making a YouTube video. Um, so basically, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I am a writer. I would like to become a published author. So I'm just going to create a series of videos just talking about my process and what I'm learning in becoming a writer, or actually becoming a published author, because it is a process. Oh my gosh. And it is so overwhelming. And I'm trying really hard not to be overwhelmed with the process. So I'm hoping there's other people out there that are maybe struggling with the same things I am. So you guys feel free to comment, post, give me some advice because I need all the help I can get right now. So basically, I'm going to just give you a little background about my writing. I'm very shy actually, so this is really hard for me to do. And I've always been really shy. And when I was younger, I didn't take criticism as well. I still don't like criticism, I'll be honest. But I've been journaling since I was in second grade, off and on, not my entire life, not every day of my life, but since second grade, I've probably got over 60 or 70 journals that I filled up, and several more that I want to fill up. So I just I love to write and I love to daydream. So whenever I don't like my reality, I just create another story in my head. And I have probably over the last 10, 20 years created this story. And every time I get bored with one set of characters, I just kind of expand the storyline or create new characters. And it's become this elaborate, long story. And when I've shared parts of it with other people, they've told me I have this epic story. So I'm like, cool, I have an epic story or saga series, whatever. So it's a fantasy fiction series that I'm working on, and I'm really excited about it. I get really passionate. I just want to tell everybody. But the problem is getting it from my head onto the paper, and that I'm not so good about and typing it up. I'd rather just sit and daydream about it or play it over and over and over again in my head. So that's going to take me some time. Several years ago, I think it took me 5 years probably to write my first book. And I wrote my first book, and I was so excited. I wrote my first book. But then I couldn't get it published. And I started looking into the publishing thing, and you had to query agents and then try to find agents that would query publishers. And I tried the query letter thing a couple of times, and I either got rejected or I didn't get responses. And I don't think I sent it out to very many people. And then I kind of got overwhelmed with the process, and then I stopped doing it. And then I started working on my second book because I figured I could do that. And then, I joined American Night Writers Association. I went to a writing conference. I learned a little bit. And then life happened, and I kind of put all my writing on hold for the past 4 years. And then I was picking it up again. I met my mentor, Betsy Love. You can check out her books at betsylove.com. And then I been meeting with her, and I sent her my book, and I was so excited about that I'd written. And then when I met to meet with her, she was like, I couldn't even get through the first chapter of that book. And I was like, what? Seriously? It was so bad. I thought it was so good, but it was so bad. So she gave me a book on deep POV and told me to read it. So I read this book on deep POV. And basically, deep POV is point of view, in case you don't know what POV is, because I didn't know what POV was. So I'm really behind the times, seriously. So I was like, okay, deep POV. And so basically that book said that I can't have more than 3 main characters. Well, my book probably has over 20 characters in it. I'm not sure it even had a main character. I think the plot or the storyline was the main character. And I guess that doesn't really work for a reader. It worked for me, but I knew the story, so it was okay. I also learned about head hopping, and I did a lot of head hopping. Every time I'd change who was talking, I would change their point of view and their perspective. So my book ended up being more a combination of kind of a book writing description and kind of a script for a play or a movie. And I mean, that would work great maybe for a play or a movie, but then it had too much detail because I was trying to write a book, but the combination doesn't really work for getting it published. But I still think I have a good story idea. and so does my mentor. So I'm in the process of rewriting that book, which is sometimes overwhelming and discouraging because I had 24 chapters in that book and I had like 258 pages and like over 107,000 words. And apparently in today's society, like when I was growing up, you had like 250 to 300 page books, and that was a normal sized book. And you had like a lot of description in the book. So you described everything. And that's what I'm used to. And it's like, no, in today's society, it's, fast food, everything. So you want instant gratification. So you want to dive right into the heart of the book as soon as possible. You want to be like gripped to the edge of your seat the entire time. And then you're like, oh my gosh. And the book is over. So it has to be like, I don't know, 150 to 200 pages instead of the other way around. And then it has to be like, I don't know, 70,000 words or something. So I was like, oh my gosh. So my one book is actually going to turn into 3 books, which, wow, is just crazy. So I haven't started the other 2, second and third books from this book. But the other book I started, I had 2 different beginnings for. And so, because one I wrote at the beginning, and then my sister was like, oh, your main character's too mature at her age. Why is she so mature? And I'm like, well, because this other stuff happened to her when she was younger. It's like, well, then write about the other stuff first, and then everybody will understand. And I was like, okay. So then I shared that with my mentor, and she was like, oh, well, what happened to her before? And I was like, well, this other stuff happened. She's like, oh, you got to write that stuff first. And, she's like, it's okay. I mean, I can start my book wherever I want to because I'm the writer, I'm the author. People don't have to know about the backstory stuff. They can figure it out as the book goes along. But I wrote it anyway. So now I have like 12 chapters of what happened to her that makes her more mature to where she's at her young age. And now I have to revise the 6 chapters that I wrote of that. And of course, my first attempt at doing that, my mentor was like, hey, just write one, shrink the chapter, write it all from one character's point of view. Because again, I was doing the same thing in that second book, but only I didn't have nearly as many characters, which was a good thing. So then she's like, just rewrite it from one character's point of view. So I rewrote it from one character's point of view. Then she's like, write the first chapter as one page, write it all in one page. So I kind of misunderstood that a little bit, or maybe a lot. And I basically did an entire summary of my whole book. So I wrote a 1-page summary. So now I have a synopsis of my book, or kind of query for my book, the second one anyway. And she was like, I really like this. She's like, that's not exactly what I was looking for. I'm like, I really like it. There's some things you can do to tweak it up. But she's like, I'm just going to leave it alone for now. So I'm like, yay, I did something right. So I have been learning from my mentor how to shrink my sentences to make them more precise, because I'm really good at run-on sentences. I'm learning how to put in commas and how to use semicolons, something I'm really not familiar with. So this has been kind of a fun, ongoing process for me. And now I'm in the process of rewriting the book that I already had written. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, 24 chapters, and I've only done 7. But I'm finding that I remember most of the story, and then I have to take out several scenes, and some of my characters stay in there, just not the chapters that are from their point of view. So I've had to take out several chapters and rewrite the chapters from just the 3 main characters' points of view. So that's been a little tricky. So I've kind of cut some things out, which is kind of sad. And it's hard sometimes. And then I thought, ooh, I want this part from another part of my book. So then I've had to scroll through my book and try to find it. So I'm I've grabbed stuff from chapter 12 and chapter 9 and put them in chapter 6 and chapter 7. So they're kind of all over the place. So I'm still in the process of rereading, rewriting, deleting, changing point of view, figuring out what I can keep. And some of the stuff I wrote, I really like what I wrote. And my mentor's like, have you ever heard that saying, you have to kill your little darlings? And I was like, oh, I don't have problems killing my characters. You can ask my daughter. That's okay, that's kind of creepy. But they have to die. I don't have a problem killing characters. I don't have a problem having characters with character defects. All of my characters have flaws, just like me. They're imperfect. They're either, shy, they're too quiet, they have low self-esteem, or They're way too cocky. They think they know everything. They think they deserve everything. They're just, or they think they can control everything, and it's just they're all messed up, just like me. So it's all good. That I don't have a problem with. But some of the stuff that I wrote or the description that I put into my book, I was like, I really like my description, but it really doesn't fit. Or I can shrink it, I can tighten it up a little bit so I can still use some of it, just maybe not all of it, which is kind of sad because I want all of it. And so I'll have to work on that, but I'm still working on that. And so then I actually have a third book going right now because my second book was going to have 2 different characters in it, and I started writing a few chapters with the second character in it. But the content and the amount of stuff that I need to write for that book, there really isn't room for a second character. And there's enough content for his character that I can have like a whole other book. So my mentor's like, oh, just create another book because the more books you write, the better. And I'm like, yay, this is so awesome. I have another book. So I took again, several chapters of that book and turned them into, they was originally like 7, 8, 9 or something. I think it was 7 and 8. And I turned them into 1, 2, and then I added 3 and 4. So now I have 4 chapters of a third book. So I'm like, great, 7 chapters of my completed book that I'm rewriting, 13 chapters in the second book that I haven't finished, and 4 chapters in another book that I just recently started. So far the 4 chapters is probably the best and easiest. But all of my chapters, when I started, I was trying to make them like at least 10 pages long because I thought you had these really long chapters. And my mentor's like, oh no, get like 3 to 4 pages long, or even 1 to 2 pages is good. So now my chapters are a little bit shorter. So I like have a 1-page chapter or 4-page chapter. So they're somewhere between usually 2 and 3 pages. But that's like typed up on a Word document. It's not actually like in the book. So when it's formatted in the book, it might be a little bit longer than that. But anyway, I guess the idea of the short chapters is that people are like reading them like, oh, chapter hook, I want to read the next one. Oh, it's only 2 pages. I can do that. Oh, it's only 4 pages. I can do that. But if they're like me, you just keep reading. I'm like, oh, I thought I got to the end of this chapter and I'm so tired. I'm like, holy crap, I totally even just glazed right over the chapter heading or the change of chapters. Like, I totally missed it. I went from chapter 7 to chapter 10. I'm like, how did that happen? Where did 8 and 9 go? Oh, look, I read them already. So I do that. I don't know if anybody else does that, but I do that. So anyway, so I'm like, okay, so I'm in the process of doing all this writing, and then I'm trying to figure out, well, how do I promote my books once they're done? How do I publish them? Did I go about the traditional publishing, which I already sort of tried, and was really overwhelmed by that. I was like, okay, or I can do the self-publishing, become an indie publisher, independent publisher. I can do that. Totally do that. Because then you don't have to wait like 2 or 3 years. You don't have to get rejected 1,000 times. And not that you get rejected 1,000 times, but I mean, there's stories of people 100 times or 50 times or whatever. And I was like, I don't know. I think I would give up after like 3 or 4 times, and I'd just like cry my eyes out and be like, okay, just kidding. I'm not writing my books anymore. So that would not be a good idea. And then, of course, then I would get bored, and years later, I'd start talking to people about my daydreams and my stories. Like, oh, you should write that down. It's so good. I'm like, okay. And then I'll pick up my writing again. And this is what I've done for the last, 10 plus years. So I'm like, okay. But I haven't actually taken classes on English or writing papers or writing books or things like that because I always just thought I wasn't good at it. I'm not good at grammar and sentence structure. And, I took a class in high school, and it was all about diagramming sentences. I totally failed that class. I totally failed that class. I'm like, okay, so not doing this. So, like, I got the creative ideas, story part writing down, but I'm learning that it's okay if it's not perfect. That's what editors for. That's what beta readers are for. That's what mentors are for, because they can help you perfect it. They can help you say, hey, tighten this up a little bit here, or maybe rewrite this a little bit here, or this doesn't exactly make sense here, or, you can put a paragraph here, or a period here, or a comma here. But the whole point is getting the story down on paper. Like my first book, I don't know how many times I sent it out to friends or siblings, and the first chapter or so, and I rewrote that like 15, 20 times. I finally was like, okay, screw it. I'm just going to write the whole book just to write it. And I didn't have an audience in mind. I didn't have like readers in mind. I was just like, I'm just going to write this thing. And I did. It still took me like over a year to do it, but I did it. And I was so proud of myself for actually finishing a book. And then, of course, realizing that if I actually want people to read the book, that I have to write it in a way that makes sense to someone else and not just to me, which is what other people were trying to tell me. And I was just too stubborn to listen, or they just weren't explaining it in a way that I understood or something, or maybe I just wasn't open to learning new ways of doing it because I just would get advice and then I would think that I understood it and then I would rewrite it based on what one person would say and I'd send it to a different person and then I'd rewrite it based on that person. I was like, oh my gosh. So now I'm sticking to one person and that's my mentor. And then when I'm done writing the whole book with my mentor and revising it after her comments and things, then I will send it out to some beta readers, friends and family, and maybe some people I've met doing online marketing stuff like YouTubing and Twitter and Instagram and a Facebook page and a web page. So I'm like having to create all of those things because I'm learning that if I have a platform or, a place for people to read about my books and learn about my books, it's kind of like I'm pre-advertising what I'm doing so that when my books are ready, I will have hopefully an audience or a bunch of people that are ready and excited to read my books. So I do have a webpage. It's www.midgeshoemakerbooks.com. And I have a Facebook page. It's also Midge Shoemaker Books. I don't know how they do a little Facebook thing like Facebook-Midge Shoemaker Books or something like that. And I'm on Twitter and Instagram for Midge Shoemaker. And I don't remember other than that's Midge Shoemaker. I am still trying to figure out how to use all of those things and what to do with all of those things. So I will probably make some more videos about my crazy experiences with doing that, especially like with creating a Facebook page and getting locked out of my account. That was fun. Not really, but I can pretend, right? So anyway, and then of course Instagram, apparently you can't really do stuff with it on your laptop. You have to actually have like a phone and an app to use Instagram. And because it's all about taking pictures. So I learned the hard way for that one too. So this is just my process of learning how to write books. And I'm just going to kind of share where I'm at in my process with my videos and kind of like my emotional ups and downs and how I'm dealing with it, or my excuses, because I'm very good at making excuses and I'm very good at avoiding things, especially if I'm uncomfortable with them or if I'm bored with them or if it feels overwhelming and stressful. Like this video, I've been talking about doing this for like 2 weeks now and I'm finally getting around to doing it, and I still feel silly kind of doing it and a little bit ridiculous. So I'm like, I would appreciate comments from people telling me, hey, I really liked your video, or okay, you're kind of crazy but I found it entertaining anyway, or even helpful hints about how I can improve my videos and maybe what I can do to help market my books or write my books, or if there's anything you want to know about my books that I can tell you or share, I would be more than happy to do that. So please give me comments, like, subscribe, however this thing works. Let me know because I am still learning, and that's kind of me in a nutshell. So thank you.